All right, hello everybody, I'm Steven Sersky, and this here is my language vlog channel. So this is where I sort of keep track of my own progress in my languages, and I'm currently studying Mandarin Chinese and Ukrainian. So if you want to check out how I am progressing in some of these languages, I do have language updates from time to time, specifically in Mandarin Chinese and of course now in Ukrainian. I do have a newsletter that I've just started as well. You can find that on Substack, so it's Steven's Language Vlog. .substack.com, and you can find some more information, not just about my own language development, but if you are interested in developing your own language skills or learning another language or two or three, that newsletter might be of some help for you. So check it out, please, on Substack, stevenslanguagevlog.substack.com. Today, I want to give a little update of the progress of my own languages. So it is March 25th, 2023, and I am currently making my way through the HSK 5 books in Chinese, and I've just started relearning the Ukrainian language, something that I've been on and off again for the last many years doing. So this time, I was kind of wondering if maybe it would be different, because now that I'm situated in Beijing, China, and that I've got a pretty good grasp, I say it's a pretty good grasp of Mandarin Chinese, to the extent that I'm a lot better than I was before, and that's very important, but also I don't have to struggle as much in booking class and then showing up to class prepared. A lot of the classes that I've had are more conversational, which is allowing me to have a little bit more time to do some other things, notably pick up the Ukrainian language. Now, with these two languages, you might wonder, like, is it possible to pick up two languages at one time? And certainly it is. I know people are doing it. And one of the things I've heard said about learning multiple languages at one time, or two languages at one time, particularly if you're not a native speaker or you don't have any relationship with those languages previously, is that you have to pick one to be the dominant language, and then another one that is sort of your secondary language. So in this case, my primary language is still going to be Mandarin Chinese, whereas my secondary language is going to be Ukrainian, and possibly some other Slavic languages as well. But with Mandarin Chinese, focusing on that, doing my flashcards every morning, having class from italki 2, 3, 4 times a week, mostly, again, conversational classes, some writing classes as well, as I've started to make my way through reading and writing classes, I should say. Writing with one teacher and reading Sun Tzu's Art of War currently. And then, of course, a couple of conversational classes as well. As for Ukrainian, usually what people would do if they're trying to learn multiple languages, with the primary or the dominant language taking up maybe 75 to 80% of the time that you spend, and then the non-dominant language, the secondary language, being about 20, maybe 30% of your time as well. So 70, 80 on one side and 20 to 30 on the other side. So that basically means that out of a 7-day week, you could spend 4 days on your dominant language and then 3 days on your non-dominant language, or 4 days and 2 days, and then give yourself 1 day break. It is up to you, and this is one thing that I found with my own development of the Mandarin language, is that as I've gotten better at it, I'm able to pick up things as I go. So I mentioned the 4 days at one time, or sorry, 4 days that you're studying. That would be sort of your concentrated study, the grammar study, concentrated focus on vocabulary, and maybe even developing your writing skills. But that doesn't mean that on your off days that you're still not picking up stuff along the way. One benefit of living in Beijing is that I'm able to interact with people, use the vocabulary that I do know to lead into situations and conversations where I can pick up another word or remind myself another word, especially a different pronunciation or a use of it as well. Now for Ukrainian, I'm not going to have very much space or time to practice it with other people, but that's simply the nature of me being in China and not in Ukraine or anywhere close to it. So how will I approach this language, or these two languages? Mandarin, I'm going to continue with what I've been doing before. My goal is to write the HSK 5 test sometime. I have no deadline. This is actually one beautiful thing of not having a language requirement for work or for study, is that there is no deadline, so I can take my time with it and develop along on my own path. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not studying anything. It just means that I don't have to book a test if I don't want to, sort of thing. And for the next iteration of the test, the next attempt at the test, I know I'm going to have to work on my, well, of course, vocabulary via flashcards. I have to work on my writing, and I have to work on my reading of dense paragraphs, which I still read very slowly in Mandarin Chinese, so it's a bit of an issue for me. As for Ukrainian, I hesitate to want to study Ukrainian as the same way that I'm studying Mandarin. And I'm not sure if you've noticed this along the way, that different languages can require different methods of or different approaches to learn. So whereas with Mandarin Chinese, I do have to spend a lot of time learning the characters with flashcards and everything, possibly with Ukrainian, since I do have a background in it and I've studied it on and off and I learned it as a child, it might be that I don't have to do the same amount of focused vocabulary development. One area I know that I'm going to have to change, or that I'm going to have to work on, is on my conjugations and my declensions. This is something that I know is an issue because not only do my teachers tell me, but when I'm speaking Ukrainian, it's always an issue. I don't know how to say certain things, or I say things in a very awkward way because I don't know the proper grammatically correct way of saying. Like, for example, in the library, or on the table, in the car, on the car, and so these are different things that I'm learning. The other thing with Ukrainian is that I would much rather learn how to speak it rather than to write academic essays in it. Mandarin Chinese has sort of pushed me in that way, where I just focus so much on learning the language in totality that it's kind of pushed me up to this level where at HSK 5, you are dealing with newspaper articles, you're dealing with essays. You might not be dealing with the logic necessarily of a structured Chinese essay, but you're certainly, as you learn more characters, what you can read opens up substantially in the language. Whereas with Ukrainian, particularly because it is so close to other languages such as Russian and Polish and Romanian, and then also has a lot of contact with the West, there's a lot of borrowed words and a lot of cognates that I can latch onto that really only require me to understand how to conjugate or to decline. So it's not as much of an issue as to recognize the alphabet or the word. It's more of proper grammatical declension or conjugation, and then proper meaning of it. And then, of course, being able to use it in a spoken context as well, because I'm not going to lie, Ukrainian likes to put a lot of letters together that my mouth is not used to moving just yet. All right, so that is the current update with my language attempts so far. So Mandarin Chinese continues at HSK 5 level, and then now I'm starting out with Ukrainian language as well. Probably I would be considered A0. What's lower than A on the CFR scale? I'm very beginning. I do have some exposure to it, but certainly not as much as I've forgotten a lot of it. I haven't used it in a very long time, and certainly I want to be able to speak this in a way that it sounds good as well. Again, my language vlog does have a newsletter, stevenslanguagevlog.substack.com. You can check it out there and subscribe. And also for the YouTube channel as well, if you want to, please subscribe, like this video, and I appreciate it very much. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.